Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We're really excited to have you with us, and we're going to start here in just a couple of seconds. We're just going to give people a little bit more time to jump in, and we'll be with you very shortly.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Divit's webinar. My name is Frederick, and I work with sales and partnerships here at Divit. I'm here with Whitney Blankenship, who is our excellent content manager. And today we're going to show you all the ways you can boost e-commerce optimization with data reports. The webinar will be approximately 30 minutes, and we will have 10 minutes at the end for all your questions and feedback. And please use the question feature on your right if you have any questions. And obviously, you can also email us at frederick@divit.com with your questions, and we will answer them for you right after the webinar. The agenda for today is all about data reports that will make your job easier. We will show you why you should create data reports and how these reports can save you a lot of time. Whitney will show you our top 5 data reports and how you can create these reports for yourself. And finally, Whitney will also show you how these data reports can save you money by comparing different marketing channels. And don't worry if you can't stay for the whole webinar. We will email you a recorded version of the webinar later today. And as a bonus, every attendee would get a free health check report valued of 299 euros. These reports are created by our analytics experts, and they will give you a simple and actionable recommendations about your store. And we will tell you everything you need to know about the health check report at the end of the webinar. And before I hand over to Whitney, I just want to tell you a little bit about why we started Divit in the first place. Divit was founded in 2015 to help merchants understand the results of online marketing in detail. And we do this by tracking and analyzing every relevant KPI about your store. Since the start, we have built and refined all our analytics tools, and we also track data from all your marketing channels, such as Google Adwords, Facebook, Bing, and many, many more. And one of the core features that we offer is that we collect all your marketing data in one place, which gives you a very simple overview that can help you make better decisions and allow you to optimize every marketing activity in a better way. Today, we work with e-commerce merchants and marketing agencies in over 50 countries around the world. Now I want to introduce you my partner, Whitney, who will guide you through the rest of the webinar. Welcome, Whitney.
Thanks so much, Fred. And thanks everybody who attended today. I'm really excited to do this for you guys and kind of dive into why we're going to create data reports, what they'll do for you, and basically how to interpret your data so that you can make an action plan based on the data that you already have. So I think it's important to understand that the e-commerce industry today is more saturated than ever. And this is a really good reason to optimize every aspect of your site and make sure there's no weaknesses. Your data shows you where you can optimize, but many e-commerce merchants are really confused about their data and they have trouble spotting those opportunities. That's where data reports come in. Data reports combine certain metrics together to show you a clear picture of one or more aspects of your online store. So today we're going to go into each data report, what they mean. We're going to look at practical examples for what each data report looks like. We're going to look at general examples on how to interpret the data from those reports, and then a couple of tips on how to do that. So let's start off with, why should we create data reports? Well, data reports help you understand your data in a really tangible way. You should definitely be tracking your data over time. and keep an eye on how your channels are performing, especially on a multi-channel sort of basis. Multi-channel a couple of years ago, it seemed like a little bit of a buzzword, right? But today this is reality. A customer is going to have several touch points via several channels with your brand before they purchase. So let's go ahead and launch into a couple of tips that I've got for you for creating your own data reports. Now, the first thing that you definitely want to do is define goals for your e-commerce. For example, you probably say, well, I want to make more money. Well, bravo. Everybody does. But you need to define tangible goals for your e-commerce. You need to look at your data and say, okay, well, I want to improve my conversion rate from Google AdWords by 15% over the next 3 months. Now, notice what I've done there. I've chosen a channel that I want to improve. I've chosen my conversion rate. This is the metric that I want to improve. I've defined exactly how much I want to improve it. And then I've also defined a time frame. So this is really important. You want to create tangible, realistic, and attainable goals for your e-commerce. And the second tip that I've got for you is to choose the best KPIs for your store. We're going to get into that a little bit more as we look at these different data reports to create. And the third is definitely to keep regular track of your metrics, whether that's weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, all of the above. You definitely want to be keeping track of these metrics over time so you can watch the progression and the growth of your e-commerce store. So now let's go ahead and jump into these top 5 data reports that you definitely want to keep for your e-commerce. And the first one is your traffic report. This is basically going to show you how people are getting into your site. It's going to scrape the surface of customer behavior without going too much into detail, because what we're just looking at is which channels are bringing in the most people. Then we're going to check out the customer behavior report, and this is basically going to show you a little bit more in depth as to what your customers are doing once they get to your store. Then we're going to move to money. We want to know all about the money. The orders and revenue report is going to show you how much money each channel is bringing in and how they're doing it. And then your marketing cost report is going to take the flip side of the orders and revenue report, and it's going to show you exactly how much you're spending, where you shouldn't be spending, and maybe where you should be spending more. And then the device behavior report is basically the same thing as the customer behavior report, but we're going to look at this with a perspective of mobile because it's extremely important. So let's just go ahead and dive into the traffic report, which is going to show you how many new and returning visitors you have. This is going to be ideally, again, broken down by channel because we want to have that multi-channel kind of focus. And it's going to give you insights, kind of scrape the surface of how your customers are behaving as they come to your site. So the key metrics that you want to include for your traffic report are going to be visits. Now, do keep in mind that visits by themselves can be a bit of a vanity metric, because unless you have a 100% conversion rate, visits don't really tell you very much. However, when you combine visits with other metrics, they can help give you perspective on how your store is performing. And we're going to include for our traffic report unique visits because they are a bit different than regular visits, as in visits will show you recurring visits to your site. And unique visits are going to more focus on the unique user IDs that come to your site. Page views per visit is going to show you basically how many pages your customers will visit on average when they come to your store. Average visit length is the same sort of idea where we're going to look at the average length of time a customer will spend in your store. Visits before order, this is going to focus a little bit on those touch points that I talked about earlier. And we'll get into that a little bit more in detail later. And then obviously your conversion rate, because we want to see how many people made it all the way through. So this is a typical traffic report. And I know you might look at this and you might say, all right, I'm not really sure where to begin. And that's normal. You're being hit with a bunch of numbers here. So what I suggest you do is you take this and you break it down chunk by chunk. And also take a look and try to spot some things that seem a little off. For example, if something seems wildly, much too high or much too low. And the first thing that really pops out to me, for example, is Instagram. So when you take a look at your Instagram, you're bringing in a healthy amount of visits via Instagram, but your conversion rate is it's less than 1%. It's about 0.64%. So just for a little bit of context, the average conversion rate this will vary on industry and how you sell and what you sell, but the average conversion rate for an e-commerce store is about between 1 to 2%. So if you've got something that's a little bit lower than that, this is usually, probably an area you'd like to improve. Now you could look at Instagram and you could say, okay, well, this might be a targeting issue. But when you take a look at your page views per visit, this is actually going to show you, okay, well, I've got people that are coming into my site. They're looking at, quite a few pages all in all. So I don't think that there's really a targeting issue here. So how do you get people to convert a bit more from Instagram? Instagram is a bit of a strange social network in that you can't really put links in your posts. You can put them in your bio. So perhaps creating a specialized landing page for Instagram would be a good idea to move forward from that and to test. And you could also test perhaps even a discount code or a free shipping code exclusive for Instagram as well. The next thing that pops out to me is your Google Adwords account, because you're bringing in about 3,500 visits from that, which isn't great, but wow, take a look at that conversion rate. You've got 5.6%. So you already know, based on the data that you've got in front of you, that if you put more budget into Google AdWords, obviously put it in, well, you could stand to see a 5.6% conversion rate from it. So this is kind of a basic idea of how you can take a look at your traffic report and kind of make conjectures about it and make hypotheses. And you can back these up with your data. So you know that, if you want to test more budget on Google AdWords, then you could definitely do that and you could expect this kind of return from it. And always, if you ever want to take a look at the way your traffic is progressing over time, you can do this in the Divot app with the traffic tab that will show you the change based on the time periods that you've chosen. So now we're going to move into the customer behavior report, because like the traffic report, we wanted to kind of scratch the surface of customer behavior, but now we want to just dive head on into it. And this is going to show you how your customers are behaving once they visit. And this is going to also show a couple of weak spots throughout your sales funnel. So what kind of metrics do we want to include for a customer behavior report? Well, what I would do is I would include visits, because again, this helps give us a little bit of perspective. Your bounce rate is the metric that tells you the amount of people that get to your landing page and then they just kind of leave. They don't go any further. They don't do anything else. See you, bye. Then you've got your failed discovery rate, or also known as browse abandonment rate. And these are people who have moved through your UX a bit, who are kind of looking around, they're window shopping, but they never ultimately purchase and they leave your site without doing so. Then you've got your checkout abandonment rate. Everybody in e-commerce knows about this. This is the people that get into your checkout, they've added things to their cart, maybe they've started the checkout process and then they just drop off. Then we've got the conversion rate. And again, we want to see how this funnel narrows. We want to watch exactly how many people get through all the way. So looking at a typical customer behavior report, again, we're going to look for things that pop out to us. And this is going to show us where we can optimize or improve our UX. And this is going to show us whether we're attracting the right customers to our store, and also how to spot problems in the checkout process. So the first thing that kind of pops out to me when we're looking at bounce rate are definitely the retargeting and referral campaigns. There's not a whole lot that's going on here anyway, so it might, but still maybe something you want to look at. For example, when you're putting budget into your retargeting ads for Google, this is provoking a pretty high bounce rate in regards to your other channels. Now, just for the industry average for e-commerce, bounce rate is typically between 30 to 45%, somewhere along those lines. So if you've got something that's pretty elevated, you've got something that's 70, 80, 90 percentile, that's definitely something you want to look at. Now, for retargeting, it's not really doing very much in this case. You can see it's got a conversion rate of only 0.58%. But your referral campaigns have a pretty solid conversion rate, all things considered. So even though they're not really bringing in a whole lot and the bounce rate's pretty significant, this could be a combination of retargeting, and then also maybe a specialized landing page, like I mentioned before, for Instagram. So that could be some way you can mitigate that. And the second thing I want you to look at is your fail discovery rate. Now, typically this is going to be a little higher because this is where people are going to drop off if they decide your site isn't for them. But if you have something that is particularly elevated, if, for example, you're looking at like 95, 99 percentile across the board, then that could be a UX problem that you want to take a look at. So, like I said before, this is kind of the idea of, trying to pick out a couple of examples and look at your data and think about it critically. Now, remember when I talked about touch points earlier? The average divot merchant has 5.5 touch points with a customer before they purchase. The industry average for e-commerce is typically between 6 and 7 touch points. And these are just people who are coming to your site, they're checking things out from one channel or another, and then they're leaving, or however they go about doing things. So this is kind of what that typical customer journey might look like. And we'll talk a little bit about this a little bit later. This is from the Orders Explorer tool that we have. And you can kind of get an idea for what this might look like in practical terms. For example, you've got, Google Adwords that is contributing like 3 different touch points, organic Facebook that contributes the second to last one, and then the last one coming from organic Google. So this is definitely something you want to keep in mind, that a lot of people are going to be having a lot of different touch points with your brand before they're purchasing. And again, we will talk about this just a little bit later. So now we want to talk about money. We want to see what's making you money and what's not making you money. We want to see which channels are contributing the most to your revenue. And we want to spot opportunities for revenue growth through order value. And most of all, we want to see how many touch points a customer needs with your brand before purchase. Now, do keep in mind that your customers, when we talk about touch points, your customers may need more. Your customers may need less. New customers are typically going to need more because they need more touch points with you before they purchase, before they trust you enough to purchase. Whereas recurring customers might need a little less. So just kind of keep that in mind as we're going along and we're talking about touch points, because this is very important. So what kind of metrics were we going to include in an orders and revenue report? We're going to keep visits in there. It'll give us perspective. It'll keep things kind of same sort of mind frame. We want to look at order count. We want to see how many orders are coming from each channel. We definitely want to look at your revenue, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. We want to look at your conversion rate, and we also want to take a look at average order value, which is how much your customers spend on average, because we definitely want to see which channels are providing the highest paying customers. So here's an orders and revenue report. We've got all our metrics laid out. And this is going to show you which orders are the most valuable by channel. It's going to tell you how ready each customer is to buy by channel. So this is pretty interesting. And the first thing that really pops out to me are these top 3 channels that contribute the most to revenue, which are organic Google, organic Facebook, and then your email newsletters. And the first thing that really pops out to me here is the conversion rate for organic Facebook, because it's almost like too bad, because you've got almost the same amount of visits that are coming in from Facebook as you do organic Google. But that conversion rate is just abysmal. So if you could boost your conversion rate coming from Facebook to something that was a bit more significant, if you could just at least raise it to 1%, you know that you could expect a certain amount of impact on your revenue. And again, like I mentioned before, when we talked about Instagram, you could do this with a specialized landing page, or even better, make your product pages into landing pages. A lot of times when people are coming from Facebook based on a product or a post that they've seen, they're going to be hitting a product page. So make sure your product page is optimized so that it functions as a landing page as well. Make sure your call to action is clear. Make sure the important information is above the fold, et cetera, so on and so forth. And the second thing that really pops out to me here is in average order value. For example, your referral campaigns the conversion rate isn't wonderful, but the average order value is pretty significant for your channels. So if this was something where you could actually improve your conversion rate based on this channel in particular, you could see some of your highest paying customers, and this would significantly, again, impact your revenue. And another area that I think would be interesting, another opportunity that I can see here, is from your organic Google campaigns, just from organic Google. If you've got 67 euro almost 68 euro in terms of average order value, if you could boost that by just 2 euro, knowing that this is already the most significant contributor to your revenue, knowing that this is one of the most significant contributors to your traffic, and with a decent conversion rate like it has, you can actually predict how much you would make if you could get these customers to spend 2 to 3 euro more. And so this is just kind of the idea of kind of spotting these opportunities. Another one that I can see is definitely through Instagram. I mean, we've got a fantastic conversion rate. Average order value could be better, but it's all right. But you've only brought in about 70 people this month from Instagram. So if you could actually bring in more traffic from Instagram, you could really impact your revenue. So this is what the orders and revenue report is really all about. You want to be able to spot these opportunities. You want to be able to say, okay, well, here's where I can make more money. And that's really what these are about. And again, if you ever want to take a look at how your orders and revenue are progressing over time, you can always do this in the Orders tab in the Divot app, and always check out how much it's changing over time periods. So we definitely talked a little bit about those touch points, and I think that it's really important to have a very clear picture of what those touch points might look like. And it's totally possible to have 15 or 25 touch points before a customer orders. And what's really cool about the Orders Explorer here is that you can actually check out your revenue. You can check out how many products and what products each customer purchased, whether it's a new or returning customer. And you can also really take a look at the customer journey from beginning to finish. You can see, okay, well, they came in from this channel, they spent this amount of time, they landed on this landing page, etc. So it's definitely a really good way to see how your customers interact with your site and where they're coming from and why they come from each channel. So from the flip side of a orders and revenue report, we want to look at how much you're spending and where we can reduce that a little bit. We want to learn which channels are working best for your e-commerce store, and also where you can improve your return on investment. So what are the kind of things we're going to look at in a marketing cost report? We're definitely going to look at marketing costs because we want to know how much you're spending. We can also look at cost per visit. Now, this is I'm saying this is optional, just because cost per visit is it's all right. I mean, it can help give you perspective at the end of the day, but we're really interested in cost per order. We want to know how much you're spending to get a new order for your e-commerce site. And again, for new customer count, this is the same kind of idea. How many new customers are you bringing in? Customer acquisition cost, how much money are you spending to bring in those new customers? We want to look at revenue, see how much each channel is contributing. And then we're also going to take a look at your return on investment, because that's very important for us as well. So what I've done here is I've just sort of taken the paid channels and put all of my metrics in place. And I really like this example because it's a very, very extreme example on both ends. You've got two very extreme examples, and you have two that are more middle of the road. And I think this is really good because we can really analyze this properly. For example, the top three things we want to look at here are cost per order, customer acquisition cost, and ROI. Because these are the ones that are really going to tell us a lot about each campaign. And I mean, we might as well start with the channel where the campaign has just gone terribly wrong, and that's Google Adwords in this case. We spent £91,000. We've made less than £3,000. This is a failed campaign, guys. And that's really obvious in this case. But we're definitely going to look at a couple of cases where it's not so obvious. But you can definitely see that the cost per order here is too high. The marketing cost is too high. The revenue is just way too low. the ROI is negative. Like it's just a failed campaign all the way around. So if this channel isn't working for you, it's definitely important to reallocate that budget elsewhere. And even when you look at something that's a little bit more middle of the road, like Bing, I mean, Bing's got at least a positive ROI. That's already a step up from Google in this case. But at the end of the day, you're spending £18,000 to make £22,000. Is that £4,000 really worth it? And are you putting your budget where it's going to work the most for you? And especially if you look at, for example, Criteo in the retargeting campaigns, that's making almost twice as much as you're spending. So this is definitely a better place to spend your budget. So if you were to reallocate that to Criteo or to Xanox, for example, which is a wildly successful campaign in this case, this is definitely a big example of how that will work for you. So the next and last, certainly not least, report that we're going to look at today is the device behavior report. And again, this is basically the same report as the customer behavior report, but what we've done is we've added a new metric. We've added device because we want to break this down by what device customers are using and why they're and how they behave based on that device. And why is the device behavior report important? In 2016, mobile browsing overtook PC browsing for the first time ever. And this is not a trend that's going to be reversing. We need to stop creating an e-commerce store that is optimized for mobile and start creating an e-commerce store with mobile in mind from the beginning. And let me show you what I mean by that. So again, these metrics, they're going to look really familiar to you. We looked at them in the customer behavior report, but now we've added device. So we're going to separate this by mobile, PC, and tablet so that we get a better idea of how people are acting based on the device that they're using. So here I've just taken the top channel and I've condensed it so you guys can see everything. But we're definitely going to take a look at how this is performing. And we've got Google Adwords here. We're going to take a little snapshot of mobile for a second because this definitely jumps out at me. On mobile, you've got more than 3 times the amount of visits that you are getting from desktop and tablet combined. This kind of backs up what I was talking about earlier, and people have the tendency to browse more via mobile. You can tell that there isn't really a UX issue here on mobile because your page views per visit is still rather high. Your average visit length, it's a little bit less. It's to be expected on mobile. Mobile users are a bit more finicky, but it's not too low either. Your bounce rate is actually lower than that of tablet and is comparable with that of desktop too. Same thing for failed discovery or browse abandonment rate. This is even lower than desktop and tablet. However, if you see a problem with your UX, it's definitely in checkout. You've got a 65.82% checkout abandonment rate when your checkout abandonment is twice as low or 30% lower on desktop and twice as less in tablet. Which is too bad because the conversion rate is actually really, really, really good via mobile. But it's a bit of an issue if this is your lowest converting device when this is your highest, the device that's bringing in the most visits for you. It's really too bad. So you know that this could be an issue with your checkout. It could be something as simple as not having a numerical pad on your checkout when the customer has to tap in a number. It could be as simple as not offering the right payment for a mobile customer. And it could be, something that has nothing to do with your checkout at all. It could be a situation where, customers are putting things into their cart and then they're moving to desktop to complete the purchase, which is very likely too. But don't take the risk on that. You definitely want to bring mobile customers in and make sure that they're not bouncing off during checkout process. And make sure that your checkout process is completely streamlined with no obstacles, no friction whatsoever, because mobile users will bounce and they will bounce quickly. So this is basically all I've got for you in terms of our data reports. I know we moved really, really quickly today. I went through those examples super quick, but I really just wanted to make sure that you could see how to spot these opportunities. And I just have a final couple of thoughts for you before we open it up for questions. So these were just a couple of general examples on how to interpret your data and how to combine these metrics so that you get kind of a view into different aspects of your store. When you're able to spot the changes in your data, it means that you know where you can improve and where you can optimize. And knowing is half the battle. Once you know what your data means, it does the work for you. I mean, practically. So thank you guys very much for joining us today. And I'm going to open it back up to Fred and see if we don't have any questions from the audience that I am super eager to hear and answer, of course.
Thank you very much, Whitney. We have a few questions. Yes. Hi. Which report would you start with if you would start? In what order would you do this?
Okay. I don't really think that there's necessarily a report to start with. I mean, once you understand what the metrics are telling you, spotting these opportunities, spotting these things are rather easy to do. Once you actually like take a look at it and dive in, break it down and everything. But if you want something that's really basic, I feel like the traffic report is kind of the first one that everybody sort of understands. So again, I mean, mix and match these reports, kind of, you know, get a customized view of how you want to see your e-commerce store and what you want to track. But I mean, I guess if you're going to start with anything, start with the traffic report.
Cool, thank you. Here's a KP. He wants a demo. How can we help him?
So basically, if you want a demo, you can definitely email us. Our email addresses are already on the screen, so that's handy. Give us an email and we will set you up with a free demo, and we'll go over everything in 15 minutes and we'll help you connect your store too.
Cool. And then we have a question about exporting. Yeah, can I export these reports?
You definitely can. If you are using Divot, for example, you can export it in the top right-hand corner after you've added all of your metrics in the Analytics Explorer. And you can export these in CSV for now. We're going to be offering them in PDF soon too. So you can definitely do that too soon.
Thank you. And I have one more question from Maria. I get reports from both Google AdWords and Facebook, but they don't really add up with my sales. Would this also be a problem in these reports?
So that's kind of interesting. I think that breaking it down in a multi-channel sort of sense is really helpful in this case. I'm just going to pop back here so I can show you guys this for a second. Because when you're thinking about things in multi-channel and you've got two different reports, you've got two different channels, for example, that are claiming the same report. This is actually really useful in terms of attribution, because you can see where one channel has had more of a contribution to an order than another. And if you want even more details, again, if you hover over any of these channels, you can actually see the device that the customer was using. You can see what landing page they ended up on, how long they spent on your site, etc. And you can really kind of get a feel for how a channel has really contributed to an order. And so this is kind of a mitigation to that, I would say. But I really hope that answered your question.
Yes, that sounds good. Thank you very much, Whitney.
Thank you, Frederick, and thanks everybody for joining us again.
Thank you. Should we just pop right up into about the health check report, because we have a bonus for everybody that joined us today. And,
yeah, absolutely.
And we will send you all the information about this health check in email tomorrow. But so how does this work? A health check report is more or less a summary about your e-commerce store, where we will have 5 reports with recommendations. So to get the health check report, the only thing you have to do is basically install a basic script. And we will, during 30 days, collect data from your store. And then we will send you a very useful report that will summarize the current state of your e-commerce store. And at the end, there will be 5 very actionable insights. So the 5 reports consist of a metrics tree, which is an overview of all your e-commerce metrics. There is also a channel breakdown, where we will show you all your sales from every marketing channel. Will also be a report that we call Data Dive, where we will show you how every KPI affects your revenue. For example, so can you track and compare your bounce rate for new users that comes from Google Ads, AdWords on mobile, and you can compare that to recurring or returning users that comes from a Facebook ad, for example. Another report is a device breakdown, so you can see how your users or customers arrive at your site from different devices. And the fifth report is what we call the Divot Insights. And where we will show you 5 personalized insights, how you easily can improve your store performance. And on your screen now, we have 3 very good examples, but the middle one is the one that really shows the value of the data that we get from your store. For this customer, we have identified that newsletter is one of the marketing channels that could and should be used much more often, and used correctly, that could increase sales by up to 3% for this customer. And these statistics are quite hard to find yourself, because there's so much to look at, and so we feel that with our data we can help you to find the places where you can improve the store. So this is a little intro to the health check report, and we will send an email tomorrow where we'll have more instruction on how to get this, and it's free, and the value is 299 euros. And again, please do not hesitate to email us if you have any further questions. You can email us at whitney@divot.com or to me, frederick@divot.com. And thank you all for joining us today. We are very happy that you took your time and to join us today, and we wish you good luck in the future with your data reports. Thank you very much.